I never imagined I'd be writing something like this. But here I am. My wife and I have been married for almost 7 years, and for the most part, things have been good. We had a nice house in the suburbs, decent jobs, and what I thought was a solid relationship. Until 3 months ago. It started with small things. She began staying late at work more often, became protective of her phone, and seemed distant during our conversations. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone goes through phases, right? But then the arguments started. We fought over the smallest things. Dishes left in the sink, not texting back quickly enough, spending too much time with friends. These weren't new behaviors, but suddenly they were major issues. One night, during a particularly heated argument about me forgetting to pick up something from the store, she snapped. You know what? I don't even know why I bother with you anymore. There are plenty of men who would love to be with me, who would actually appreciate me. I froze. We'd said hurtful things before in the heat of the moment, but this felt different. It wasn't just what she said, but the way she said it. Like she'd been thinking about it for a while. What does that mean? I asked, my voice surprisingly calm despite the storm brewing inside me. It means exactly what I said, she replied, not meeting my eyes. I have options. Maybe I should explore them. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, I left for work before she woke up, her words playing on repeat in my mind. Was she already seeing someone else? Had she been approached by other men? Was our marriage over and I was the last to know? When I got home that evening, I tried to talk to her about it. She brushed it off, saying she was just angry and didn't mean anything by it, but something felt off. The trust between us had cracked, and I couldn't unsee it. Over the next few weeks, things were tense but civil. We went through the motions of daily life. But the connection was gone. I started noticing things I hadn't before. The late-night texts from her work friend, how she'd leave the room to take calls, how she dressed up more for certain events where I wasn't invited. Then came the night that changed everything. We were at a dinner party hosted by her coworkers. I didn't know many people there, so I stuck close to her at first. But as the night went on, she drifted away, laughing and chatting with others while I stood awkwardly by the food table. I watched as she touched her colleague's arm, leaned in close to hear him over the music. It wasn't overly inappropriate, but it wasn't how my wife usually behaved either. On the drive home, I was quiet. She asked what was wrong, and I finally let it all out. Are you having an affair? She laughed. Don't be ridiculous. Then what was that tonight? The touching, the flirting? Oh my God, I was being friendly. Not everything is about you. This is exactly why I said what I said before. You're suffocating me with your insecurity. So I'm imagining things, the late nights, the secret texts, the password on your phone that changed last month. She went silent for a moment. I'm not having this conversation right now. When we got home, instead of going to bed, I packed a bag. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there with the lies hanging in the air between us. As I zipped up my duffel, she stood in the doorway. What are you doing? Her voice was smaller now. You said there are plenty of men who want you. I'm leaving so you can have them handle whatever it is you need, because clearly I'm not enough. You're being childish, she said, but I could hear the panic creeping into her voice. Maybe, I replied, but at least I'm being honest. I spent that night at a hotel, and the next day, I called my brother and asked if I could crash at his place for a while. He didn't ask questions, just said yes. I told my wife I needed space to think, and she reluctantly agreed. Being away from home gave me clarity. I realized how much I'd been walking on eggshells, how anxious I'd become trying to figure out what was happening in my own relationship. It wasn't healthy, and it wasn't me. After a week, I met her for coffee. She looked tired, her eyes puffy like she hadn't been sleeping well. Part of me wanted to comfort her, but I held my ground. I think we need to separate. The words felt strange in my mouth. Because of one comment I made during a fight? She asked incredulously. No, because of everything that's happened since. I don't trust you anymore, and you don't seem to respect me. That's not fair, she protested. I've never cheated on you. Maybe not physically, I conceded, but emotionally, I'm not so sure. She started crying then, saying she loved me, that she'd been stressed with work and took it out on me. She promised to be better, to work on our marriage. For a moment, I wavered. But then I remembered the look on her face when she told me about all the men who wanted her. There was no love there, only contempt. I need time, I said finally. Real time, not just a week. I need to figure out if this is still what I want. 2 weeks passed. I was still at my brother's, going to therapy twice a week. He had suggested it, saying I looked like a man who'd forgotten which way was up. He wasn't wrong. Therapy helped me sort through my feelings, recognize patterns in our relationship that weren't healthy. Yesterday, I met my wife at park. She admitted for the first time that she'd been enjoying the attention from her coworker. It made me feel desired in a way I hadn't in a while, she said. But I never acted on it. I wouldn't do that to you. You already did, I replied. The moment you decided to use him as ammunition against me, you crossed a line. She had no response to that. A month passed. I got my own apartment, a small, sparse place I rented month to month. My wife wanted me to come home. She cut off contact with her co-worker, even requested a transfer to another department. She sent me small things, a book she thought I'd like, a photo from our honeymoon, a handwritten letter about what she loved about me. Part of me wanted to go back, but another part was scared nothing would change. 3 months later, I moved back home on a trial basis. Things were different. We each had our own spaces, our own time. We continued seeing the counselor, working through issues instead of letting them fester. My wife was transparent about everything. Her phone unlocked, her whereabouts known. Sometimes it felt like too much like overcompensation, but the counselor said we'd find a balance. Friends and family had questions. Some knew what happened. Others just knew we'd hit a rough patch. My father-in-law pulled me aside one night. I'm proud of you for fighting for your marriage, he said, but prouder that you were willing to walk away to keep your self-respect. It wasn't what I expected from him, but it meant a lot. Doubt still crept in sometimes, but they were becoming less frequent. Trust was growing back, slowly but surely. We weren't the same people we were before. I was more assertive. She was more conscious of her words. We were both more intentional about our relationship. That night I walked out with my duffel bag was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was necessary. We needed to break, to rebuild. We needed to see what we stood to lose. Marriage isn't a fairy tale. It's work, hard, messy, everyday work. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're both equally invested in doing that work. So here we are, starting over at year 7. Different, but maybe better. Scarred, but healing. Moving forward, one day at a time.